What's up, nerds? Welcome back to the booth here. We're going to head down to the feature match area for the next round of Mythic Championship London. My name's Riley. He's Simon Gertson. And I'm going to tell you what, you better hold on to your butts, my friends. We have Dredge, one of the best decks in Modern. You can't really deny that, but Simon, you better get a glass of milk ready because we got a real spicy one on the other side of the table, huh?
Red Eldrazi?
Red Eldrazi. Serum Powder. Red Mulligans, I think, is another name for the deck. We can go down now and have a look at our players. Yeh facing off against Mark Jacobson. Yeh Chih-Cheng playing Dredge. We'll have a talk about Dredge. We've already discussed this weekend that it's a weird one. It's a weird list, but I tell you what, the Oscar definitely goes to Red Eldrazi for best mulligans in a supporting role here. I think we've had a number of mulligans that have resulted in Mark Jacobson being on 5 cards, but with Serum Powder, half his deck is already exiled.
Yeah, and you can see here that the judges are still trying to fix some things. So you can actually see above the library there all the cards that have been exiled with Serum Powder, and I think 3 Eternal Scourges already available to be cast from exile.
So what we're talking about, I mean, this is super, super weird. If you're new at a Magic, I mean, welcome, by all means, welcome, but this is a baptism of fire because both of these decks are super weird. Let's try to get across the Red Eldrazi list here. With the recent change to the mulligan rule, players are not incentivized to mulligan, but it's less of a blow. And that means that a card like Serum Powder, which interacts with mulligans, and a card like Eternal Scourge, which you can play from exile, all of a sudden you get a little bit more equity when mulliganing with these cards. So Mark Jacobson, he's only got 5 cards in hand, but those Eternal Scourges, which can be cast from exile, super weird card, are basically also in his hand.
Effectively in his hand for all intents and purposes. And then, of course, something that synergizes extremely well with that is if you have Eldrazi Temple to cast them cheaper. Also, we have to say that the Red Eldrazi deck is not just an Eldrazi deck. It can have these powerful starts, but it also has all kinds of lock pieces. Chalice of the Void on turn 1 is a very popular play when you are the Red Eldrazi player. However, against Dredge, you have the other oddball deck of the format.
It's
almost
so weird.
We're
my goodness.
playing 2 decks that are so all-inish, and I have the feeling that Dredge is probably favored here because Dredge doesn't care about Chalice of the Void.
Imagine if you've just never seen Modern before, and you're coming to this like, okay, I'm going to see some creatures, attacking, blocking, use some removal spells, and there's Dredge versus Red Eldrazi. Like, what is going on here? So what's happening here? Yeh Chih-Cheng is using the Dredge mechanic here. Instead of drawing cards, milling over his own library to put lots of cards in his graveyard. And then here's the payoff cards. It's simple enough. Bloodghast comes back from the bin. Life from the Loam returns lands from the graveyard. Faithless Looting can be cast from the graveyard here. So it's a graveyard-reliant deck. And the payoffs can be huge in the sense that they are overwhelming.
And we should explain to the viewers why the Dredge deck is occupying 2/3 of the table here. That's because it's creatures in front of lands, in front of graveyard, in front of hand.
Yes.
And because the Dredge player's hand is most of the time known anyway, Yeh is actually playing with all of his cards revealed at the moment.
Now, Jacobson, with this double Eldrazi Temple draw, is able to cast a 4-drop on turn 2, and it is no slouch either. Look at this one here. Thought Not Seer. TKS is also going to mean that Eldrazi Mimic slams in for 4 and strip a card from the hand of Yeh Chih-Cheng. Not the biggest penalty to pay when you're playing Dredge, it has to be said, because, of course, we're going to see here Yeh is much more interested in filling up his graveyard, as he does now. Oh, and a Crippling Chill is a nice hit.
That Dredge was huge, because there was not a Dredge card found by dredging Life from the Loam. So flashing back Faithless Looting is not as backbreaking as it could have been. So
now, triple Faithless Looting in the bin, which is nice. Narcomoeba in hand, which certainly isn't, and a Bloodghast as well. We don't often see the Dredge deck put creatures into play from its hand, but hey, it's possible.
Yeah, it'll most likely be a card that is getting discarded with the flashback of Faithless Looting. Something that's probably the most counterintuitive about Dredge is that you almost never want to take a regular draw step. You always want to dredge a card, if possible, because it's just more powerful to get multiple cards into your graveyard rather than a random card from your deck into your hand. I mean, just look at the Chill, look at Conflagrate, look at Bloodghast, Price Amalgam. The whole deck is built around that synergy.
Let's talk a little bit more about Red Eldrazi, very much the spiritual successor to a deck of, well, a cursed time in Magic's history. Eldrazi Winter, Simon, I'm sure you remember it well. After Oath of the Gatewatch brought us a number of very powerful Eldrazi, for example, the Thought Not Seer you see on the screen there, the Reality Smasher that's hiding out in Jacobson's hand. Combined with Eye of Ugin and Eldrazi Temple, we had a situation where Eldrazi decks were running rampant over the modern field. That, thankfully, has dwindled to the point of obscurity with the banning of Eye of Ugin, but this very much is in the same mold as those decks, Simon.
It's in the spirit. It's definitely not on the same power level, even with all the changes to the Mulligan rule or open deck list. It's not comparable to when Eye of Ugin was still legal.
So here we have now Faithless Looting, discarding Life from the Loam and Prized Amalgam. So that's a nice one here for Yeh. He'll be happy enough to be stocking out that graveyard reasonably well. And Jacobson, on the other hand, we are going to try to even. Oh, this is a very aggressive permanent placement here from Yeh Chih-Cheng. Going to calm things down a little bit, put that graveyard in a more orthodox position.
For fairness sake.
And now, look at this.
Ooh.
Some realities are about to be smashed. That means that the Eldrazi Mimic as well goes up to a 5/5 for this turn. So that's a huge attack for 14 here. That's going to really knock Yeh Chih-Cheng down a peg or two. He's on 19 life. He's buffered his life total a little bit with a couple of creeping chills, but he's going to need to find a way to answer these Eldrazi. Of course, the Eldrazi Mimic back to a 2-1 now, but that Reality Smasher is going nowhere fast.
Yeah, and he still hasn't had a chance to find that 5-point Dredger in Stinkweed Imp. He also doesn't have Jacobson on 10 or lower, so the Bloodghast don't have haste, no Conflagrate. His draw hasn't really worked out that well.
Oh, it's been a bit of a stinker for him here. It hasn't gone, certainly hasn't gone to plan here for Yeh. Jacobson, however, sitting pretty. All permanents tapped, very much at ease here. His chin resting on his hand. Having a great time in the feature match area. 10-2. Wow, he's really defended his record superbly with this off-the-wall list. When we went into this tournament, we talked about the London Mulligan. We talked about the fact that it may have had an impact as we see Dark Blast take out that Eldrazi Mimic. And I think nowhere more have we seen it than in a deck like Red Eldrazi. We've seen it augment and buff a few decks like Tron and maybe nerf a few decks like Burn, but this is the only archetype that really springs to mind in terms of trying to abuse this change in rules.
Yeah, if you've always loved mulliganing, then this is certainly the deck for you.
If you enjoyed, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoy mulliganing, why not try Mark Jacobson's Red Eldrazi list? The list is available, of course, Cardboard Live app. Click on that little button there, you'll see it in all its glory. But for now, that's it. We're going to go to game number 2. Mark Jacobson picks up a handy game 1 win after a weaker draw from Chih-Cheng Yeh. We're going to take a quick break, ladies and gentlemen. On the other side of this, we'll be back with more live Modern Magic from Mythic Championship 2 here in London.
When you live on a plane as dangerous as Ixalan, being tough matters. That's why HUATLL, the Sun's Heart, really cares about a creature's toughness and rewards you for playing creatures with strong defenses. If we want to build around this uncommon planeswalker, we're going to need some high toughness creatures. And when it comes to creatures, white and green offer the best creatures with the toughest hides. Teo's Light Shield, Ironclaw Corvid, and Law Rune Enforcer are your primary payoffs in white. Note that while Teo's Light Shield does not have Defender, the 0/3 walls that Teo creates do, making him an unlikely pairing. Sorry, Teo. Green, on the other hand, has access to Arboreal Grazer, Snare Spinner, and Centaur Nurturer. Thundering Ceratok is a good way to get your creatures over opposing chump blockers, and Steady Aim becomes a slightly bigger giant growth when HUATLL is in play. And don't forget HUATLL's Raptor, which not only benefits from HUATLL, but also proliferates her on the way in. There's one important sorcery worth mentioning. Since HUATLL already asks for creatures with higher toughness than power, it's a slam dunk inclusion. Stay tuned to Mythic Championship London for more War of the Spark quick tips.
I need to tell you a secret that will change Ravnica forever.
Land cries out. We have eyes everywhere. Lines are being drawn as we speak. Whose side are you on?
Control the secrets, and you control the cities. Death is just the next step. You first.
Steady! Steady! Now!
The balance of Ravnica is about to change, and change is good for us.
Welcome back to the feature match area here at Mythic Championship London. You're in the booth with me, Riley Knight, and I'm in the booth with Simon Gertzen. Simon, we're going to jump over to one of our back tables now. Yuta Takahashi, the king of the fairies, playing against Eli Loveman. Loveman on humans. Classic tribal matchup here, Simon.
Yeah, two of the tribal decks in Modern, although we have to say there's really only one person that still plays fairies.
Yeah.
Yuta Takahashi will...
Yeah, just stuck in 2009.
But he's doing well with it, so who can blame him?
I mean, this guy has been on a tear recently at the Magic Fest, the GP circuit, putting up some good results with it. And look, to be honest, this deck isn't as fairy focused as it used to be, especially now with the removal of Spell Stutter Sprite. Yuta Takahashi has more or less transitioned this into a blue-black control-ish, mid-range-ish type deck. It's got Jace, it's got Cryptic Command, Snapcaster Mage, all that good stuff, as well as Vendilion Click, Bitter Blossom as the only vestiges. No Mistbind Clicks anymore. No Spell Stutter Sprites, unfortunately. I guess Mutavault still counts.
Bitter Blossom is a fairy, so...
But apart from that, all the usual suspects you'd expect from a blue-black control deck. We got Fatal Push, Cast Down, Inquisition Kozilek, and of course you can see this as part of the Cardboard Live app. We do have those deck lists available to you. No frills on the side of Eli Loveman, playing a straight up and down humans list, although an interesting addition from Ravnica Allegiance, Simon.
Yeah, Deputy of Detention is a card that a lot of the humans players have already put into their main deck, just as a way to be a bit more resilient to difficult to handle threats. And surprisingly, a lot of decks just can't kill a Deputy of Detention easily.
It is funny how much, just a little 1/3 Oblivion Ring can really get it done. And the thing is, it grows out of control very, very, very quickly indeed. We have cards like Thalia's Lieutenant, of course, to pump up the jam on all those creatures. And the amount of tempo-based interaction that the humans list really got a shot in the arm, along with Reflector Mage, now Deputy of Detention, another way to clear out troublesome permanents, get in for that damage, and that's all the humans deck wants to do, always looking to race.
We heard yesterday that the humans deck definitely got a boost from open deck lists, with Meddling Mage in particular, being able to name exactly the removal spell that's most likely to deal with your creatures. Meddling Mage has, of course, called Fatal Push here, and Kaisel Freebooter is probably resolving because of Cavern of Souls.
Looks like it, and we're going to see a big attack now from Eli Loveman as everyone's getting busy. Yuta Takahashi down to 9. I don't know what there is that can save him from this one, to be honest. Here's a Mana Leak going underneath that Kaisel Freebooter. Snapcaster Mage and a little creature land there hanging out there. Creeping Tar Pit.
Yeah.
And the Thalia's Lieutenant we mentioned before, Simon.
This is usually how it looks for Yuta Takahashi whenever I'm looking in. And then his record is still surprisingly good. I remember yesterday that he was losing very badly to Burn.
Yeah.
And somehow he still wins these matches.
He's always losing until he isn't anymore. And maybe that Snapcaster Mage is going to have something to do with it here. Cryptic Command will be the first port of call here, I imagine. But, I mean, man, Yuta Takahashi, what a Stone Cold master he is. I got the chance to watch him play live and in person at an event a couple of months ago. And Simon Gertzen, I have never seen more busted up tokens in my entire life than his Fairy Rogue tokens from Bitter Blossom.
Used up?
They look like they've been put through a paper shredder and then glued back together. They have been. I don't know how many points of damage they've done in lifetimes, but it's in the tens of thousands. Unbelievable here. So big army now from Eli Loveman as we see a Meddling Mage put on the stack. This is probably going to be tap draw with a Cryptic, yes indeed, or maybe even tap counter.
No, countering against Cavern of Souls is usually not the best idea.
It was cast off the Cavern?
I think so. There are 3 of them, right? Or 2 of them?
At least 2 there. New art on the Cavern of Souls there.
What I'm always wondering is, what is your game plan now? Like, are you drawing towards a Damnation that's not in your deck? Or is there actually a mass removal for the Fairies player? Well, because if your only out is to chain Cryptic Commands, that just seems like a very unlikely...
Yeah, treading water. treading water in a very real sense. And yes, Yuta Takahashi reads the writing on the wall, daubed as it was in enormous red letters, of course, and that is the way she goes there in game number 1. We'll check back in on these plays a little later on, Simon, but right now, time to head back to our main featured match between Yeh Chih-Cheng and Mark Jacobson. We saw Red Eldrazi going up against Dredge. The Eldrazi deck had all the tricks after a mulligan to, I don't know, minus 14 or something, and a Leyline of the Void to kick things off here on turn 0. So plenty of pre-game actions here for Mark Jacobson, but Nature's Claim for Yeh. That's a great start for him.
The ley lines being known makes it that much easier for the Dredge player to just board in those Nature's Claims. Of course, there could be the theoretical mind game of only having one black leyline in your sideboard, but if we're being honest, if you want to play Leyline of the Void, you're probably playing 4 of them because it's just too important not to have it.
And Yeh did have the answer to it on turn 1, so he won't be too troubled by that enchantment. We'll see how things go moving forward. You can see Jacobson took at least one Serum Powder mulligan there, with an Eternal Scourge in Exile available for him to cast. And let's have a look at what he's working with in his hand here. It doesn't look too bad, to be honest. Although he's going to need to find some extra lands here. Chalice of the Void, an interesting post-board inclusion. I don't know what 1-drops he's really worried about, just maybe Faithless Looting.
What is this hand?
A lot of action in it, but it's not doing a huge amount right now.
You have 6 uncastable cards.
Okay, well,
and
I'm trying to look for the glass half empty, or the glass half full here, but I think we're into well and truly glass quarter full. Yeah.
Okay, maybe the idea was the following. You have a black leyline, so you keep, and you're only 1 land away from a Chalice on 1, whose only purpose can be to stop Nature's Claim.
Okay, all right.
So the game plan was, drop my leyline, opponent doesn't have Nature's Claim, Chalice, opponent finds Nature's Claim, you win.
And so Yeh Chih-Cheng has just completely gone off script here.
The plan somehow didn't work out, yeah. Step 1 was okay, you got the leyline.
Yeah.
But then, of course, and as we know, Dredge is playing basically with their opening hand. So it was a bit optimistic to hope for that Chalice.
Yes, that plan, yeah. The best laid plans of Marks and Men, af Gang Agley. And this one certainly has Gang Agley, because this is not exactly what Jacobson was thinking, I'm sure, when he looked at that opener. And with a nice couple of Dredge hits here, you can see Bloodghast's coming back. Prized Amalgam also going to enter the stage. Life from the Loam hanging out in there. We've got plenty of cards in hand to discard to things like Faithless Looting, should that ever come up, with Stinkweed Imp and what have you. Things looking pretty good here for Yeh.
I really like how Yeh is composing himself, just managing this amount of cards really beautifully. You could even see him count the number of cards in his hand, despite 4 or 5 of them being open-faced on the table. He was very aware of the discard step and seems really on top of everything.
Looks like it is a Chalice of the Void on 1. Coming better late than never, I suppose, here for Jacobson. But a Dredge now of 5 cards, thanks to Stinkweed Imp, sees... Oh, that was a little weaker there. Nothing too exciting hitting the bin this time around, Simon.
Yeah, just a Bloodghast that is potentially coming back. Maybe some interesting lands to get with Life from the Loam. I believe it's a Ghost Quarter there.
Yep, can see a Ghost Quarter coming back, along with what looks like a couple of fetches, Scalding Tarn and Wooded Foothills, of course. And this is a pretty orthodox demonstration of what the Dredge deck is about. The creatures it's bringing back, 2/1s and 3/3s and 1/1 flyers, aren't particularly impressive. But the fact is, Simon, you're looking pretty silly if you wanted to leverage general normal removal against Dredge, because you kill their 2/1, it just comes back. You kill their 3/3, it just comes back.
Can we get a basic land count on Red Eldrazi?
How many basic lands are there in Red Eldrazi? I'll give you the number. You give me the over/under. 2.5.
Over.
You take the over?
Wastes are basic, so I already see 3.
Oh, that's true. Okay, all right. Well, I made a fool of myself there. Yes, indeed. All right, so we got 3 mountains, 3 wastes in the deck of Mark Jacobson. So he's able to go up and fetch another basic mountain.
So that Ghost Quarter was not really.
Man, I just
got
a savage there.
It wasn't even intentional, but I took the.
Oh no, Simon, you've got to take the shots where you can get them, my friend. You've got. You know that I would not extend any courtesy to you in that regard. So I'm very well used to it. I mean, my best friends are Toffel and Yamin, for goodness
we
sake.
play hard.
I'm very used
hard.
to it. I'm very used to it, my friends. So Jacobson now, with a hand that still looks a little bit like a foot, as you can see. Double Eldrazi Mimic, Eldrazi Aggressor, Reality Smasher, Anger of the Gods, and a Chalice of the Void here. Chih-Cheng, his hand, well, mostly irrelevant to be honest. It's all about what's in the graveyard there for the Dredge player. Jacobson not able to do anything other than just play a little goblin Pikerino there. And now in come the clowns.
And we do have a Conflagrate in the graveyard now.
And that's the big finish, right?
Yeah, that's an insane combo with Life from the Loam.
That's the big fiery finish. Well, no, it's not the fiery finish, because fiery finish is the fiery finish. But it's the big Conflagrate.
So 3 cards hidden in hand, 5 cards known in hand. Now you see Life from the Loam get an additional 2.
Mm-hmm. And that's what typically powers up the big Conflagrates here. Looks like really in the driver's seat with another another Ghost Quarter here. He's on the old Crucible Wasteland lock.
Except that he's going to win before running Jacobson out of mountains.
But you know what, Simon? There's so much more than just putting 2 numbers on a match slip and signing it. There's also the moral victory. We don't have a match slip for the moral victory just yet, Simon. But I believe in one day, we'll have fully accredited flavor judges. We'll have victories that transcend game scores and go on.
I see a career for you.
As a flavor judge?
As a moral victory judge.
Well, thank you very much. Moral victory judge indeed. I'd be very qualified on that topic here. Jacobson, however,
Anger of the Gods
is going to clear the way, and that's actually an excellent way to do it. That's a really, really good way to do it here, because all of those creatures, they ain't come back again. They ain't come back no more.
So, Riley, little rules question.
Okay.
Casting cost of Conflagrate when flashbacked from the graveyard.
The converted mana cost.
Converted mana cost for Chalice purposes. Is it 1?
It's
is
1.
It 2? Is it 1 plus X plus X? Is Chalice of the Void going to stop Conflagrate?
It's a positive whole integer.
No, the thing is...
Is it 1?
It doesn't matter what you paid for it. It only matters what's in the top right corner.
Yeah.
So it's always going to be... If X is 10, it's going to be 21. So you can basically always kill your opponents with Conflagrate.
Right, it just gets through anything. Okay, all right. I mean, I didn't know that. My expertise as a judge certainly isn't with rules, it's more with flavor. So I would have been, if he had tried to equip a sort of Fire and Ice to his, to his Squadron Hawk, I'd be like, give that man a warning. But no, as it is, everything's fine. And we do see these guys wrap things up. Let's check in now with one of our back tables. We did already have a look at what was going on between Yuta Takahashi and Eli Loveman here. The Fairies player going down in game number 1. Let's see how things are going in game number 2. Looks like a little bit of damage has already been done to the Japanese superstar here, but sitting pretty behind a Liliana of the Veil, second best planeswalker of all time. It looks like Eli Loveman is in real trouble here.
What you will see after sideboarding against the deck with Cavern of Souls, Yuta Takahashi is not going to rely on counter magic, but will play a more proactive game plan. Actually, these Planeswalkers are tremendous at doing that, and then you can pair those with all the spot removal in the world. So it's not really a Fairies deck anymore after sideboarding. Well, that's a good way to pressure Planeswalkers, though. Whirler Rogue with friends.
Especially against Liliana of the Veil, going wide there. I like to see that. That one's come straight out of the sideboard here for Eli Loveman. Interesting little bit of tech. Also very good in those clogged up mid-range slogfests where you can just slam in with your 12-12 champion, of course, make it unblockable and get in there.
Where it's more about the unblockability than that you get three threats for the price of 1 card.
But right now, doing some good work in the face of this these star-crossed lovers here, Jason Liliana. She's still going to incinerate the hand of Eli Loveman now. Takahashi reduced to just an EE and a Fatal Push in hand. Engineered Explosives, another stone-cold banger against the humans list.
Takahashi has to decide what to do against the Whirler Rogue. That's kind of the next big question. You can Engineer Explosives for 0. That would be an option. Then you get rid of the 2 tokens that would otherwise cost you 2 cards, or a minus activation on Liliana, both of which you don't want. And then Whirler Rogue is another story. I have a feeling that we might see Fatal Push take out the world.
And I mean, that is a 2-for-1 in the favour of Eli Loveman, but Takahashi is the one pulling ahead on cards. He's got a Jace as a source of card advantage. He's got Liliana to make sure that Loveman's hand never really gets out of control. And you can see Loveman in hand right now has a Noble Hierarch and a Phantasmal Image. And I'll tell you what, Simon, if he goes for that Phantasmal Image play, it's not going to end well for him.
No, and I think he kind of knows it. I'm actually surprised that Takahashi allowed him to get that extra card draw off of the Horizon Canopy, because Field of Ruin could have taken it out.
Thalia's Lieutenant now the play, or the draw, I should say, for Loveman. And in come the Thopters. Engineered Explosives. Bit of a flak cannon to take him out of the sky here. No. Yes. Ultimately, away goes that Air Force, headed off by the explosives. Here is a Phantasmal Image, and that's just a Stone Cold 2-for-1. That's just a it's a Stone Cold Infinite for 1, Simon, because that is enough to wrap things up in game number 2 between Yuta Takahashi and Eli Loveman. Great to see the King of the Fairies dancing around his realm.
I wouldn't have wanted to continue playing either. So.
No. We're going to jump over to our other back table now and see how things are going there. On this table, of course, we have a game between Brian Brown-Duin and... Oh, no, sorry. Are we going to check in? It looks like these guys are actually getting ready, so we may be able to go down and have a look at them. No, in the meantime, Brown-Duin and Yuya Watanabe here. BBD on humans and Yuya Watanabe on Tron. And looks like BBD is going to come up with the goods and equalize after a Game 1 loss.
It does look like the combination of Thalia, Meddling Mage, and Damping Sphere is probably enough to stop our Japanese master, because otherwise there could still be an Ugin to just win the game. Actually, Ugin plus Nature's Claim would still get it done with the right land, but it is very unlikely that Watanabe comes back.
Very unlikely indeed, with Brian Brown-Duin assembling all of the hate pieces that he can possibly lay his hands on. That Meddling Mage really doing a lot of work against the main sweeper employed by the Tron player, but it looks like Damping Sphere as well is here to stay, Simon. I've been very impressed with this card, and it's enough to get BBD across the line.
And when you looked at the graveyards there, Watanabe used his Nature's Claim on Ether Vial.
Yeah.
So then didn't have an answer to Damping Sphere.
A risky deployment of that resource there, but that is the way that it goes between those two players. Game number 3 coming up between them as well before too much longer, but right now, it's the Game 3 between, oh my goodness, Mark Jacobson and Yeh Chih-Cheng. He says, you destroyed my landline last time. It's not happening this time, my friends. He's got 3-of-a-kind, slams them into play, and Yeh Chih-Cheng immediately on the back foot, Simon.
And Ye knew he was in trouble when Mark Jacobson, for the first time in this tournament, didn't take a mulligan.
Jacobson's looked at his 7, he's like, yeah, I'm good. And Chih-Cheng's like, dude, isn't your deck built to mulligan every time?
What's wrong?
Like, what's going on? Have you forgot? Did you misclick? What's happening here? 3 Leyline of the Void, and Yeh Chih-Cheng has gone from playing one of the weirdest decks in Modern to what equates to... If this were a draft deck, it would be an absolute train wreck.
Yeah, but this time it's intentional.
It's like, I'll just take all these off-color rares. That's fine. 3 mana, 3/3 in blue and black. That'll pair perfectly with my Life from the Loam and my Faithless Looting. So Yeh Chih-Cheng, I tell you what, he's got his work cut out for him here. And then Mark Jacobson has followed up that mighty play of triple Leyline with a 2-1.
You know what the worst part is? Ye thought he had things under control with his Nature's Claim.
Yeah. Let's have a look at that hand, and you can see right there it is.
And now it's not even, it's not even worth it. It's not even worth to destroy one of them.
It's like a couple of kids at preschool having a fight in the sandpit. Look at them. They're just playing 2-1s and 1-2s. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Mythic Championship, the biggest stage in competitive Magic. And we're playing with flying 1-1s and, lowly 2-1s.
And Jay is preparing beautifully for this stage of the game. The next few turns are going to see hardcast price amalgams.
Yeah.
Now Kamiba, and if he top decks a Stinkreed Imp, he's even going to have a blocker for Reality Smasher.
So again, we are seeing this train wreck of a draft deck come together here for Yeh Chih-Cheng. He's just playing good, fair, honest Magic. Yep. He's looked at Mark James and said, all right, knock out my graveyard. You know what? Don't want it. I didn't even want it there. It's fine. I'll beat you down with this little Centaur Corsair here. That is okay. But I think Jacobson's going to have another thing or two to say about it in his hand. Double Eternal Scourge, Eldrazi Obligator as well. So he does have the talk to back up the walk. But he's looking for big cards. He's looking for his Reality Smashes. He's looking for his Thought-Knot Seers.
And he has the mana to cast Thought-Knot Seer already, missing a single source for a Reality Smasher, and those are the cards that would really close out the game quickly, especially with those Mimics.
So here's an Eternal Scourge, and that means that our lowly little Eldrazi Piker is going to get in now for 3, taking the form of the Eternal Scourge. An Eternal Scourge, super, super weird card. If you haven't seen it before, it can be played from exile, so it's a 3/3 that is very, very difficult to remove indeed, and you can see a little smile playing around on the face of Yeh Chih-Cheng. He's like, okay, all right, I see what this card is all about here.
So it's actually a downside that Leyline of the Void only exile to your opponent's graveyard.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd actually rather exile your own one, so you can always cast your Eternal Scourge.
You see some of these Eldrazi decks that have the Scourge that also play in the main deck even Relic of Progenitors. So that way you can actually exile it in multiple ways.
Well, it might be enough to get it done here, as it's the biggest thumper on the battlefield, well, tied for equal, I guess, with that prized amalgam. Now, Chih-Cheng is going to be able to deploy another 3/3 here, but ultimately, I think in the long game, it's not too much of an RKBC to say that Jacobson is heavily, heavily favoured.
Absolutely, and he has been since turn 0, actually. So just thinking about how this game can progress, Yeh has to find a game plan that, even if the percentage is very low, gives him a window of opportunity to win.
Let's talk about what that looks like, Simon. It looks like playing to the board. It looks like playing out these creatures, making smart attacks, smart blocks, and then I think Conflagrate and Lightning Axe come into it.
Yeah, Conflagrate is a lot weaker because it really unfolds its power from the graveyard, but Lightning Axe is huge. Being able to get rid of an Eternal Scourge, right now there's no way for... Oh no, that would actually be the target of a spell or ability. I was thinking that Dredge doesn't have many ways to target it, but ultimately their 3/3 is still very handleable.
Yes.
What you don't want to see is 4/4s and 5/5s.
But that Lightning Axe is going to be an important answer here for Yeh Chih-Cheng, as the Eternal Scourge just straight up blocks, straight up trades with an opposing 3/3 here.
Yeah, that's understandable because it wouldn't have had a good attack either. It would have just been traded.
What a format, Simon. I tell you what, I woke up this morning not expecting to see Dredge playing honest creatures against a deck that is built to mulligan and doesn't.
Yep.
Just rips the perfect 7. Like, yeah, easy. I don't need the serum powder. Just cut it. Put it straight in my sideboard. I'm just going to rip a perfect 7 every time, says Mark Jacobson.
You think he just replaced Serum Powder with Leyline?
That's the next. That's the level that Mark Jacobson's on.
I actually heard people talking before the tournament saying that you could just put Leyline of the Void into your Dredge deck in the main deck, because it's not a deck that relies on cards in hand, and you know what you're playing against. So if it's a graveyard deck, you just keep it, and it's going to be great.
And Eldrazi Obligator now going to steal the 3/3 from Yeh Chih-Cheng, get in for a bunch of damage here. That's a big attack for 9. Chih-Cheng down to 4. He's got one draw step, really, to try to put himself back in this game, and it's a creature that can't block, ladies and gentlemen. So it's not going to do him too much good. It's also a creature he can't cast, even with his perfect mana base.
The Dredge mana is not really designed to cast your creatures. Actually, including the blue source is already quite a prize.
Yep, but we're going to see a Stinkweed Imp. Well, that, as with a weird form of Death Touch, is at least something of an answer to one of these creatures. But Jacobson can continue to pile on the pressure. He's got another Eternal Scourge in hand. He's got one in the graveyard. That one's not coming back just yet. Jacobs is going to have a quick pause to have a think about things. He's drawn a Chalice of the Void off the top. Now, that card's not doing a lot here. He doesn't need an insurance policy on those Leyline of the Void. So it's going to be Eternal Scourge instead, cast off that Eldrazi Temple. But wah-wah-wee-wah. What a game of Magic, Simon. Not something you see every day, even in this Wild West format that is modern.
We have seen and commentated on a lot of games of Magic, and this is definitely something special.
This is one of the weirdest games I think of. You know, as I say, we're in the Wild West, and these boys are the rootinest, tootinest out on the frontier, I would say. These two decks, I mean, they're weird in their own right, and then I think we get a weirdest multiplier when they come up against each other.
And the best part is, they both do this to their opponents constantly.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? They just dump
Yeah.
their hand on turn one, and so neither of them is going to be too bitter about it.
No,
It's what they signed up for.
Yeah, you can't exactly say, oh, well, you know, he's playing so unfair. He's playing all these cards that don't make sense. He's breaking the fundamental rules of Magic. It's like, yeah, dude, so are you, man. Settle down. What do you want? Eldrazi Mimic is taken down by the Stinkweed Imperino there. And now a Chalice of the Void for 1.
Yeah, that'll probably prompt a response. Lightning Axe on Eldrazi Obligator is not a great play, but it is something that potentially alleviates the pressure.
It's a play. I mean, it's a play.
It's a legal play.
It's a legal play in the card game Magic the Gathering.
It's definitely better now than later. Oh,
So,
second Black Source.
Second Black Source. We can bring in the 2-1 with downside now. In comes the Narcomoeba for a clean 1 damage in the air, but no dice for Yeh Chih-Cheng, who does not play his Bloodgast out. It's not going to do too much good for him. Jacobson on a healthy 13, gets in with the Eternal Scourge. That's going to trade with the opposing prized amalgam. But Simon, Ramunap Ruins.
This is like in Standard.
I'm having flashbacks to Pro Tour Hour of Devastation. It's mid-2017, ladies and gentlemen. We're going back to the hallowed days, the glory days. All praise our Lord and Saviour.
A red
Hazoret.
source wins. A what?
Oh, whoa. Wastes does not.
I think Jacobson was just,
Okay. Oh, look at this. Fancy play syndrome at its finest. We've got a Ghost Quarter. Ghost Quarter the own land. Go and fetch out a basic mountain. Tap it for double red and get you dead, says Mark Jacobson. Improving to 11-2 with one of the weirdest decks in the entire history of the game. Red Eldrazi taking the advantage of this new Mulligan rule. And, I mean, by jingo, by crikey, Simon, what a game of Magic we just saw.
beautiful.
Not something you expected, my friends. Not something you expected. We are going to get a chance to chat with the man, the myth, the legend himself. As you can see down in the feature match area, Tim Willoughby going to pull aside Mark Jacobson and have a chat about Red Eldrazi. This is a list you better get on top of, my friends. You know, maybe this is a deck that will only increase in scope and visibility in the modern format as we know it.
Yeah, let's see. We have to maybe mention that the London Mulligan is only being tested here, so this is not guaranteed to be something that we will have in the future. And also open deck lists is a very particular thing for these Mythic Championships, so that we can actually cover them in our best abilities and with the technological advancements like Cardboard Light.
Yes, exactly. And you know, it has been a tournament with more than a few wrinkles. It's been a tournament with a couple of different things that we're trying out here at the back end. Open deck list, London Mulligan, of course, principal amongst them. And it'll be interesting to see where things land and how the chips fall once we've finished off this event. But right now, my friends, it's down to the feature match area. Tim is standing by with Mark Jacobson.
I'm here with Mark Jacobson on the floor here at the Mythic Championship. And Mark, that was one of the weirder games of Magic that I certainly have ever watched. Yours is the deck that normally likes to mulligan a whole bunch, and you keep a full 7, of which a whole bunch of them are in play before the game's even begun.
Yeah, the entire match was really weird. Game 1, on the draw especially, I know I have to turbo mull to at least have some semblance of a real hand. And with the Serum Powers especially, there were a lot of mulls. I eventually ended up on the nuts on 5, which was Double Temple, Mimic, Thought-Knot Seer, Reality Smasher. Then Game 2 was weird. I don't remember if there was a powder or not, but the hand was like just a ley line and could maybe play some spells after that, and I got brutalized after the ley line got claimed. Game 3 on the play, 2 lands, Mimic, probably some Scourge somewhere, and triple ley line. It was like, whoa, okay, I guess modern.
So you've got your 3 ley lines in play against Dredge, so suddenly Dredge is almost certainly going to be a deck that's only going to be able to play out some tiny creatures and hope to do a little bit of work in the red zone. But then it starts doing exactly that. Was there a moment where you were a little bit worried in that last game?
I was a little bit worried. Pier's list has the Steam Vents, which allows him to cast Narcomoeba and Prize Amalgam, and that's a really good anti-leyline technology. And I had none of my beefy creatures in sight, so it was looking like I kind of have to trade off my 3-power things with the hardcast Amalgams and just, you know, hope to find the Smasher that can end the game or the Thought-Knot Seer that can end the game, because by the end there, it was like a top deck creeping show for hardcast would have really changed everything.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a fair amount of reach to this Dredge deck, and ultimately it was standard powerhouse, good enough to get banned. That Ramunap Ruins that just did it. Like, so much technology going on in both these decks, and ultimately coming down to just getting over the line with what you had.
Yeah, you don't expect to use those Raminap runes for 2 damage as opposed to sacking the Scavenger Grounds against Dredge, but, when mission calls for it, that's what you gotta do.
You gotta do what you gotta do. Mark Jacobson getting it done here in the feature match area of the Mythic Championship.
Thanks so much for that, Tim, and congratulations, Mark Jacobson. Hope to see a lot more of that just super weird deck as we continue to explore this modern format here at Mythic Championship London. And we're going to do that by heading right back down to the feature match area, my friends. We have Yuya Watanabe playing off against BBD Oi, and he is on humans, facing off against Tron. Looks like we're well into things here in game number 3 after the two first ones split both ways, Simon.
Yeah, and on paper, your first instinct is that the human stack is a heavy underdog, simply because all these haymakers are so difficult to deal with. But then, when you really look at it, the amount of silver bullets and protective, disruptive creatures the human stack has access to, especially after sideboarding, it is a bit of a different story, because it is possible to almost lock out a Tron player from doing what they want to do.
Look at this one. This is a bit of a weird one. Not only do we have a Gaddock Teague in play, which is a fantastic card, of course, against all the huge non-creature spells in Watanabe's deck, Brian Brown-Duin has got a little worm of his own.
Yep. This is actually something that all players that have Phantasmal Image in their deck should be getting used to. You often want to copy your own creatures, but that's when it's going well. What if your opponent plays the biggest creature, plays a Wormcall Engine, and Ulamog maybe? That's when Phantasmal Image can really shine.
Yeah, and we've seen, I think, that Phantasmal Image copy the opposing Wormcall that you can see in the bin there for Watanabe. And Brown-Duin, I think, in a reasonable spot here, Simon. I think it's fair to say. Although Yuya Watanabe is now in a position where he can start to put some pressure on. But if we have a quick look at his hand here, not a lot going on there, Simon.
No, but there is a Dismember. That is...
sorry, which member?
That member?
That one, sorry. Go on.
That is definitely something that could take care of Mantis Rider, which is attacking for 5 here each turn.
Yeah, that's certainly the biggest threat on the battlefield when it comes to Watanabe's life total. Those worms are holding down the ground very nicely, but this Gaddock Teague does deaden a lot of Watanabe's draws. He can't rely on that O-Stone. Oh, sorry, excuse me. He can rely on the O-Stone. He can't rely on things like Ugin or Khan to try to get himself back into the game here.
Yeah, that's where Walking Ballista will come in handy, because if Gaddock Teague is really... If Watanabe draws a card that would be stopped by Gaddock, then Walking Ballista is going to be used to get rid of it.
It's funny, you just kind of think that O-Stone is one of the cards that gets hit by Gaddock Teague because it's so mana intensive, but it costs 3, so it's actually
powerful.
Fun. Yeah, exactly, yeah.
We need a flavor judge there.
We do need a flavor judge. I feel like Gaddock Teague would be like, O-Stone? That sounds too powerful for my comfy little Shire here. No, sir. So, Watanabe going to cycle through this chromatic sphere here.
Black mana being generated.
And we'll see what his next move is now with a Dismember. And I wonder where it's going to be pointed, Simon.
At the biggest and most evasive creature.
Okay, so the Mantis Rider will be brought into the hangar bay here. And no more
pieces.
Damage coming. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, and there are a lot as well. If you're going to dismember a Mantis, so you've got to dismember the Mantis and then the Rider. So you've got 10 different members that you pulled apart. Wow. Your big storehouse for all that. And now a huge Walking Ballista. And that's a nice one. That means that immediately Watanabe can start to go to town on Brown-Duin's board. And this means that it's, the removal of that worm means there's big attacks now in the pipeline for the Japanese player, getting in with both Lifelink and Death Touch. No, just the one. Just the Lifelink one coming in.
Yeah, that was a bit of a shortcut there. There was a Walking Ballista for 8 mana. So 3 of those counters were immediately used to deal with the worm. Yuya realizing that it's not about winning as quickly as possible, but buffering his life total while being as defensive as possible at the same time.
Deputy of Detention off the top here. That's a nice one here for Brown-Duin, as that results in both of those worms being taken out. Even though one has Lifelink, one has Death Touch, they both have the same name and both are going to be exiled, Simon. So that's a nice way to stem the pressure here for Brown Doan. I can't imagine he'd want to do anything else other than again, take the pressure down.
No.
Although maybe the walking ballistas are a good target.
The thing is, if you target one ballista, it's not going to stick around. It's going to shoot its counter, and then you are not getting rid of the second one.
So the ability will be fizzled, of course. Yeah, and so the other one won't be gotten rid of. So away go the worms. They're exiled, of course, and as their tokens, they won't be coming back no more, even if that deputy detention leaves the battlefield. Thalia is still in hand here for Brown Doan, as indeed is another noble hierarch. But I don't think it's long for this world, as the Thalia's lieutenant gets taken down by a walking ballista. Watanabe now, and a chance for him to reload. Make some wobbly old sausages back into that ballista there and fire them towards the army that Brown Doan is slowly assembling. Sylvan scrying in hand. Ooh, but an Oblivion Stone off the top now for Watanabe. How's that one, Simon?
Yeah, that is all looking very, very good for Yuya. I think he has been under firm control this game because when we came in, it was 13 life points left and only a Mantis Rider mattering on the battlefield. And the important part was that he already had a ground force and those at least one walking ballista on the battlefield. So Gyrotic was not a huge threat. And now you can see BBD. The weakness of the humans deck is that it doesn't really play a long game very well.
No, it can't really play catch up. And once that critical mass of pieces gets taken apart, it means that it has very, very few catch-up mechanisms. And we're going to see that right here and right now. O-Stone is going to be a real barnstormer here for Watanabe. Brown Doan with a rapidly closing opportunity to have an impact on this game here.
And at the same time, you can't really complain about your draw. There is a Horizon Canopy in your graveyard and 3 lands. You drew.
Well, I'm sure
that you would find a way.
I'm sure you'd find a way to complain about it. I'm sure you'd find. I mean, we are talking about Magic players after all.
Only 2 of my sideboard cards. Then I drew a 0 power creature on turn 6.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's always. I mean, you've always got to find the line. You've always got to find the line. Walking Ballista is going to knock Gyrotic down a peg here, however. And away he goes. His sage advice will ring no more.
Kithkin Advisor.
Quite a number. There are a weird number of playable gold advisors. There are. Kambal, Console of Allocation.
I think the weirdest part is that Deputy of Detention is not a human.
Yes. Yeah,
but it's played in the humans
But
deck.
it's played in the humans list, yeah. Just creature-based disruption really comes at a premium. It shows you how good the card is.
Should we call it 5-color humanoid?
5-color humanoids? Yeah, I mean, but what about spirits? What about this spirit that we're seeing played right now? Phantasmal image, it's an illusion, isn't it? It's an illusion, Michael.
But it looks like a humanoid because
but that's just the illusion, isn't it?
Oh, it was also a Wormcall engine.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think 5-color humanoids is a little exclusionary here. 5-color beings. It's not even 5-color carbon-based life forms.
No, ether or
ether-based life forms.
Some blue stuff. I don't know what that is.
5-color organisms. Watanabe now. You'd think he'd be in a position to put the finishing touches on this game here, but does need a little bit of action off the top. How about an Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger?
He doesn't need one, really, but it would be cool.
It would be nice? Well, let's see what he's got in his hand. Oh, it's almost like I had it on a screen in front of me, Simon.
And he doesn't cast it.
He doesn't need it. Doesn't want it, doesn't need it. Just going to load up this walking ballista, pop another mag in the chamber.
Probably planning to do something with that Oblivion Stone at some point.
You can tell I'm not very well acquainted with firearms. I don't think you put a magazine in the chamber of a gun, but I don't know.
I don't know either.
I really don't know.
Very pacifistic.
I'm also very pacifistic. Here comes the walking ballista now loading up to 2 counters, up to 3 counters, and another one just for good measure here. No, a fate counter this time. 3+1/+1 counters and a fate counter. That means that Oblivion Stone, I should say, is free to blow up the rest of the world, but that walking ballista will remain unaffected. So, next up, Watanabe, who is a long way out ahead, is going to get a Stone Cold 3-for-1 here, as the O-Stone blows up the Hierarchs and the Vidalcan there. And now, it's a party, and the walking ballista is invited. And how about that backup O-Stone? Doesn't need the Ulamog in hand, doesn't want to cast it, is going to get it done instead with this walking Ballisterino. Here's the Thalia Guardian of Thraben, but with only 1 toughness, Simon, not long for this world.
I love how BBD is still playing on. It's just like Yeah, this starter is really going to do it.
Yeah, this is where the game. This is the hinge upon which the game turns here. So this walking ballista can grow to be. I honestly don't even know how big. Like this, we're talking about numbers that defy human comprehension.
Yeah,
at this
and
stage.
if that number is 7, it's actually lethal.
Well, I mean, I can't count that high, Simon. I know you've got several different degrees in across many realms of science, so I'll leave it to you to do the counting up here. But Ulamog, the ceaseless hunger, is going to eat up these 2 lands, leaving BBD with an alone uncharted territory. Here's a chromatic star, a sphere for good measure, and BBD has gone down 2-1 against Yuya Watanabe. The onslaught of the Japanese superstar continues late into day number 2. He will be turning his nose to the wind and sniffing at that top 8 because, Simon, we've only got a very few number of rounds, only 3 rounds remaining before we make that cut to top 8.
And BBD is also still in contention for top 8. So it was a tough loss for him. However, XN3 still completely live. I have to mention the MPL players did really well in draft this morning. Before the draft, we saw a few names, but then after the draft, those 4 MPL players were just at the top of the standings.
Surprising. The best players in the world doing well at the Mythic Championship? Directed by M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong, my friends. We're going to go to a break. Well, after this, of course, we'll be back at the desk with more stats, all the facts that you need to know about the Mythic Championship, and then more good old modern. Stick with us, my friends. We'll see you back here very soon.